Wait, I'm not ready.
You do this every time, Eric. I've started. You've begun. Hey, everyone. I know some of you were in the waiting room. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing today? Please drop your links. Tell us where you're coming from. If you've been here before, if this is your first time, we'd love to hear from you. We're so excited to have all of you joining us today. It's going to be a fun one. I should also say, calling in from TO. You know what? The craziest thing about being in Toronto this week was that it started snowing, and Eric is just living in the beautiful, sunny LA weather.
Yeah, it's been nice here, although I will say it's gray today, and we're about to have an atmospheric river of rain for the next 5 days, so which is good. It's good for California, but
Science. Yeah.
yeah, can't relate to snow in November.
Oh my gosh.
Christina and I were almost not friends after the World Series, but we're friends again now.
Yeah, that was kind of depressing. I'm not a big sports person, but I was watching the Jays and I was rooting for them. Was anybody tuning in during that last game? It was heartbreaking. So anybody from TO, I know it's a heartbreaking thing to talk about again, but it was really sad, really, really sad. But we loved every minute of it. And if any Jays fans are here, appreciate you. Game seven, and it was so sad. And she's not even from Toronto. I feel like the whole world was kind of rooting for the Jays, you know? The Dodgers were cool though, they're fine. Eric and I are still friends. We're good.
Yeah, there's something about baseball when like you have a team that is doing well, especially for the first time in a while, where like the whole city really gets behind it, unlike any other sport. I mean, I guess that happens in basketball too, but I don't know. Baseball is like unique in that way. Like, yeah, you never watch baseball, I'm sure, but you really wanted them to win the World
Oh,
Series.
so bad.
Yeah.
I actually cried. And I don't cry over sports.
Wait, you actually cried.
I did, like tears streaming down my face. And people that have been watching the Jays for like 20 years were like, what are you crying about? You're a bandwagoner. But I have emotions. I have big emotions. Um, Anyways, hey everyone, welcome to the Social Club. We are so excited to have you all here today. It's going to be a good conversation. Um, I just kind of wanted to say that it's felt like it's been a long month. I feel like we haven't done this in a while, but we have this every Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month. But the best part is I've been able to chat with a lot of you on the Social Club Slack community. So if you are already a part of the Slack community, hey, how are you doing? Give us a little like emoji in the chat if you can do emojis in Zoom. Tell us if you're already a part of that. We are so excited. The Social Club has been so fun. I've been learning about all of your fun little quirks and side hobbies. And the best part, Eric, I don't know if you saw this one. Someone did an introduction and they said that their fun fact was that they got their car stolen twice. I was like, I don't know if that's like a fun fact, but if you're here in the chat, let us know. Let us know how you're doing. Hope you're okay. But if this is your first time here and you've never been a part of the Social Club before and you're like, what is this? This is a webinar for social folks. We try to cover a different theme every month. And this month we're focusing on career growth and social, but every month we try to cover a theme in social because social changes so fast. As we know, we all work in social and the algorithms are also crazy and they're hard to understand. So this is a space where we can get pros in the industry talking about their like tried and true tactics, their strategy, everything that they know in social because we've had people working in this space for 15 plus years. And I'm a part of Slate. My name is Christina, if you don't know me, and I am the social media manager here. And I'm so excited to be joined by all of you. I did want to share a little screen recording of our Slack community because it is so fun. I'm going to do that right now so you can see what's going on. Check this out. We have so many channels. We have B2B, coffee chats. Coffee chats is really fun because that means you can meet marketing pros from all over. Our introductions, some more introductions happening here. We have different social channels like Instagram, TikTok, so people can talk about what's working and trends in there. And we also have Touching Grass, which I love. This is a space to talk about screen-free activities. So check out our Social Club. If you don't have a link, I'll be sure to send it in this chat a little bit later. And also remember, this is a live discussion. We have some awesome panelists joining us today, which we'll do intros a little bit later. So if you ask a question, you will be entered into a draw to win a prize at the end of this. We'll do a little spinny wheel and I'll contact you. The prize is either a t-shirt or a gift card, super fun. So make sure to ask your questions. And by doing so, we'll basically, you're saying, okay, I'm okay to come off mic. So we'll unmute you and you can ask your question live. This is the place to be for that. So get your questions ready because these panelists are so wise and have so much to say. Otherwise, I'm super excited you're all here today. This is going to be so fun, such a fun conversation. I'm going to hand it to Eric, and I'll come back at the very end to announce the winner and talk about a few other things.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Christina. I saw some people asking in the chat how they could join the Slack. So we'll drop that information into the chat, and you could always reach out directly to Christina Pirro if you need help joining that, because we would love everyone to be a part of that Slack community. Cool. Well, we'll kick this off. I'll do a quick intro of myself. I'm Eric Stark. I'm co-founder of Slate. We're a content creation platform built for social media teams. And before starting Slate, I used to do social media at the NFL. I was a social manager at the 49ers, a social coordinator before that. And we're talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart today, how social media professionals can move up in their careers. I love talking about this topic. I think it's really important. And I think social media professionals have a lot of advantages when it comes to career growth because of the visibility of their job and how interconnected it is to the rest of the org. But it is also hard to get out of the day-to-day of the content grind and all the things you're juggling to think about how to play the game really and how to move yourself up in your career in a way that is the pace and place that you want to be next. So today we're talking to three very smart and successful people. I'm going to intro them with the help of ChatGPT and bring them onto stage one by one. So first, Dakota Ray Lowe. She's VP of Social Strategy at Edelman. And ChatGPT says Dakota leads social strategy for Edelman in New York, an award-winning thinker who lives at the creative, culture, and social crossroads. She's been there, done that, and still finds ways to surprise us. Dakota?
Hi. Wow. Thank you, ChatGPT, and thank you, Eric. Hi, guys. Um, Been there, done that, and still finds ways to surprise us. I would like to live up to that expectation on this call. So thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dakota. Yeah, we're stoked to have you here. Okay, next we got Devonta White, Senior Social Content Manager at LinkedIn. ChatGPT says Devonta is a Senior Social Content Manager at LinkedIn, a creator-first thinker who built his path on authenticity, presence, and staying ahead of trends. He's proof that the road into social leadership isn't always straight, and sometimes that's a strength. I don't know what that means. Devonta, why don't you give us a much better intro than ChatGPT ever could?
I actually think that was pretty good. Hey everyone, I'm Devonta White, Senior Social Content Manager at LinkedIn. Excited to talk to you all. I'm based in New York, currently sitting at Cornell University, about to have a talk about creators after this. Um, yeah, I think for me, like the path hasn't really been straight, and so I'm excited to get into like how I've like built my career and like thinking about yourself as like a creator, a brand, and everything else in order to like expand your career. So looking forward to talking to everyone.
Awesome. Thanks to have you here, Devontae. You're definitely winning best background so far. Sorry, Dakota. Sorry to me, but it's true. Okay, we got Sarah Adam next, head of influencer marketing at Wix. ChatGPT says she built that machine from the ground up, works with hundreds of creators across multiple platforms, and still keeps a fun, bold edge while doing it. Sarah, tell us about your fun, bold edge.
I like that. That was nice. Yeah, fun bold edge. Well, I try to, like I have been documenting my journey for the past 2 years on LinkedIn, for everything I'm doing with influencers at Wix. I guess it's quite bold. I'm trying to share as much as I can without getting fired, basically. Um, so yeah, fun and bold. But yeah, in a nutshell, I mean, I've been working with influencers for the past 4 years. Before that, doing different types of like brand partnerships mostly. So I come from like a partnerships background, not social media.
Hmm.
And yeah, really excited to be here and talk about all this stuff that we love.
Awesome. Excited to have an amazing panel here. Let's dive in. I guess, Devonta, I want to start with you. You and ChatGPT said your path to leadership wasn't always straight. Can you tell us a little bit about that and like how did you get to the point where you are in your career and what's the number one piece of advice you take from your journey that you would give to somebody young in their career to level up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, like I have worked across about 4 or 5 different industries. So I started my career in fashion, then I moved over to health and wellness, then I went to back into fashion on the B2B side, then I moved to fintech, and then I moved to tech. I think the biggest advice that I can give you is like, don't be afraid to pivot. Of course, we understand that AI is going to play a big part in the roles that we have in our careers. And so understanding how you can like leverage AI, but also understanding how you can grow your career is really important just because sometimes you may have to move sideways. And so I did some sideways moves to move up. And then I started to get more responsibility. I think quarter has been really important for me, where I was taking on more work and doing like end-to-end projects that has been super great for me to like really focus on. But I'm also still figuring out like, how do I become like a CMO? What's the path between that? Also, like, I didn't only do social media. I actually worked for Klarna, the buy now, pay later company, and I was actually doing global content for them. They wanted me on the social team, but the hiring manager was like, no, I want to hire Devonta to do content for us. So my career has been split between social media and content. They can be the same or they can be different. And so I may go on the path of content marketing at one point, or I may stay on the path of social media marketing. So it's really about having the opportunities to just pivot.
Totally. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I like that, you already have the CMO goal in mind and thinking, what else can I do to get there? I guess Dakota, from your perspective, like how have you seen, I mean, obviously yourself, you are VP of social strategy at Edelman, and being in the agency side, I'm sure you see a lot of different careers across different brands. How do you see social media pros kind of leveling up to be VPs and CMOs? What works? Like what do they need to focus on to really get to that next level?
Yeah. I'd say too, like part of my background that I love sharing is I'm a proud college dropout. So I think my path is also like you had to just figure the shit out. And I don't think having a degree versus not having a degree makes you more equipped, but I think that sort of grit and tenacity has really helped me of just like you just have to figure it out. Like if you're asking me how to do a thing in Sprout Social or in Sprinkler and you haven't already Googled it and tried 7 different ways, I think that's something that's come with like my mentality is like you just have to figure it out. Like we are
Yeah.
all just figuring it out. But I think there's a few key traits that I feel like I see now with people that are rising. And I think in having conversations too about like where is the right talent, like who is rising in this space and what do they have. I think there's 3 kind of key things aside from like the soft skills of like how to hold a meeting, how to send an email, like those types of things. But one is taste. And I feel like it's a big conversation in this like AI and slop and of all that we're seeing in, online, is having the taste and knowing how to curate and having that discernment is so important for junior people. And I think for anyone rising up, I think developing that taste level is so important. The second being storytelling. I think being able to storytell in your role, outside of your role. And the reason like we're on this panel is these people all know how to storytell and they know how to do it both internally from like this is the campaign and what we did and what worked really well to the external of like, this is how I'm, can storytell to people without getting fired, to Sarah's point, and
Yeah.
really share that information. And I think the people that I see now that are doing a really good job and are getting recognition and who are leading teams are really great at storytelling. It also helps you get budget. It helps you sell in ideas. Like knowing how to storytell is major. And the last one I think that is important to me is creativity. I think being able to be generative and being able to come up with new things, and not being afraid of that, and being the one in the room to be like, I have an idea. I have a proactive thought that I can bring forward. Those three things, I think, are the things that I'm really focused on from like my, career and where I sit, but also when I'm looking at hiring and who I'm, mentoring and who's coming up in this space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I want to hone in on the storytelling piece that you mentioned there because I definitely see this as a big advantage for social media professionals who are already so good at taking an idea and making it something engaging, right? Like that's so much of the content job is how do I translate this and make it something that a bunch of people will like, laugh at, want to engage more with. And if you
Yeah.
take that skill internally and tell stories of what's successful or what's not successful and what is just something that your company can really learn from. I've seen that help so many people, become a thought
Yeah.
leader within their own company. Sarah, I'm curious how kind of you approach that. And how do you kind of toe that line between like wanting to share your wins, but not
Yeah.
always wanting to feel like, hey, look at me. I think a lot of social media pros maybe are hesitant to be loud internally about, look what this did, look at the numbers it received, look how this connects back to the business goals. How do you navigate that, and how have you approached storytelling both internally and on your LinkedIn to help you in your career?
Yeah, so I think the importance of storytelling, I mean, I don't, when I think about it, I never actually gave it that title, but I think from my very early days, like working in corporate or just, understanding like how the politics work, how do people get promoted, how do these things happen? The people who decide those things, they need to know who you are and what you're doing and that you're
Yeah.
bringing value. And the truth is that most people in these companies across marketing departments as well, they don't talk about it. They do amazing things, and the only people that really know are like their immediate, their team lead and like their partner at home. Like people
Yeah.
don't, and that means you need to trust your team lead to talk about you to the higher levels of management to get you that promotion or to get you that raise or whatever it is that you want. And I say, don't do that. Like, make sure that the people who need to know what you're doing know. And I know that people can feel uncomfortable and like, oh, and there's this whole imposter syndrome nonsense. But the truth is that in your career, I think it's the only area in your life that you have to be selfish. Like you have to put yourself first and take care of yourself. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. Like that shouldn't feel bad. Like you should be comfortable and proud to share the stuff that you've done, feel comfortable to share failures, because when you share it, you're going to say immediately what you learned from that. So it's not a failure, it's a really good lesson. And I agree that you need to share these things. There's two levels. There's internally in the company. So share it with your entire marketing department. Share it on a monthly, weekly basis, whatever it is that you're doing, that your team is working on. And also to share it externally, which is what I've been doing and still doing for the past. I started 2 years ago. And my kind of strategy for what I share, I kind of have a few like best practices for myself where I say, okay, every post that I go live with, it has to have a few components. One is my unique point of view. Like it has to be a post that only I can put out there because it's based on a real experience, something that I did, data from my campaign or a failure that I did and what I learned from it. So something real that only I could post. The second component is that it gives real value. So someone who reads it will actually learn something new, or maybe it will provoke a thought that they didn't think of before. Maybe it will incite them in some way. Maybe it will validate something that they've been thinking for a long time. And the third one is that I am very nervous to press publish. So, because that's a good sign that that it is thought-provoking, or it is something that is unusual or out of the box or slightly dangerous to say, whatever. So that's what I try to do. Yeah, on my LinkedIn.
That's great. That's great. We have a ton of questions coming in. The first one I'm going to go to is from Shell Morgan. I think I pronounced that right. Shell, are you with us, Shell? Can you come on and introduce yourself and ask your question?
Are you with us? I feel like we're summoning like a Ouija board. Are you with us here, Shell?
Hi there. Yes, Shell
Hi.
is correct. Hi, everyone.
Hey, hey.
Hi. Yes, my question is for Dakota. You mentioned that one of the traits that um, to sort of build yourself as you're rising through your career is taste. I was wondering, what are some of the best ways to develop and curate your taste in this sort of, world of AI and, like you said, this AI slop? What are some of the ways that we can sort of develop that taste as we go through our careers in social media and content?
Yeah. It's a really great question because I think it is one of those like nebulous, vague things. But I'd love to hear from Sarah and Devonta on this too. But I think when I think about taste, one, I think it's personal. So I think my level of taste or the things that I find to be great are going to be different than somebody who works maybe in a different vertical or somebody who's, very corporate minded and has, worked in B2B for 20 years. But I think the things that generally in social, I feel like can help you curate that taste is following a lot of these accounts that are doing it right in terms of like you're seeing thought leaders like Sarah and Devonta talking about them doing it correctly, whether that's Dunkin' Spidey Donut or Ram's B2B activation, taking note of those things that are getting noticed from credible thought leaders, like the people that I would trust to say that this is good or not. I also think what I recommend to junior people a lot is going in and really deeply knowing what is winning awards. It is also like a qualitative, and I think it is very much still like a garden wall where you have to submit, you have to pay money to be entered. So like small brands aren't going to be as represented in that. But I think it's a really good way to know what are the experts in this industry saying is worthy of being recognized and what it's worthy of being called good. Like I hosted a session on all of the 𝐘𝐿 winners that were specific to social and creator for my team to go through. Here's like everyone who's doing a really great job and what are the tactics and things that we can learn from that. So I'd say awards are also like very, again, like just a bit of a funky space that are fun to be a part of, but it's, I don't know, it's tough. But I think there is a lot to be learned from who's winning at 𝐘𝐿, who's winning at the Shorties, who's winning at the Webbies, based on, a panel and a judgment of 30, 40 different industry leaders who are saying that this is good work. So I would start there, but I think it's also something that you hone over time that you get better at by like talking to other people in this space, that I get better at by talking to other leaders in both within Edelman and outside the walls of it, of like what is good and what is not. So that's what I would say, but I would love Sarah, Devonta, if you have thoughts.
I'll jump in. I think that's a great start. I think for me, like having taste, but also like some of my work that I do is really based on intuition, and then data is added later. Often you have to be able to understand what's going on in the cultural space or the zeitgeist, as most people talk about. So there's certain brands that I look up to that do really great social or do really great campaigns. So Impact Media on Instagram is a wonderful place to find out what's going on in culture right now. Then you have like beautiful editorial work being done by Amy Leon Dior. So figuring out like what's going on across the scope of social is really helpful in order to build your taste in what you want to do. I started in fashion. And so my first love is like fashion, pop culture, music. So I'm always keyed into like what they're doing and how I can translate that to like impact for LinkedIn or impact for companies that I'm like consulting for. One of the things that I did like 3 years ago was, if you're familiar with cut.com on YouTube, they do like these videos where they talk to different people, 100 drinks, truth or dare. And I had actually worked with them for a LinkedIn campaign 3 years ago on our YouTube channel. It's still up, where we like talk to vintage store owners. We talked to a female drag impersonator about her career. So I was able to connect with them and figure that out and how to bridge the gap for like where we can meet together for LinkedIn on the business side. So just looking and like being able to tell what people will be interested in, it like be really helpful as you grow your career.
Yeah, that's a great one. This question's come up a bit, and I hear it a lot when I talk to social media coordinators and managers who are earlier in their career. But are trying to take that next step. Sarah, I'll start with you on this is how do you get outside of the grind of the day-to-day of execution, especially because social media is such a um, overwhelming job in a lot of ways to have to keep up with creating content for the feeds and reporting on analytics and doing all the things a social media manager has to do. It can be really easy to be just heads down and trying to keep up with the content calendar. How do you balance being a very high level IC with also trying to work on strategy and be known within the organization and do the things that, some of those, I guess, softer things that aren't just the work being delivered that would help you get promoted?
So it's definitely not easy, and it's also something that I don't have a solution. It's something that I'm constantly dealing with and trying to improve on all the time. It helps me to really manage my day, like to take each day as it comes, and I literally ask myself every morning, okay, what are the three things I have to get done today? Right? So I'm constantly prioritizing my tasks. And I try to also block out on my calendar time for if it's just kind of doom scrolling, but as research, of course, for work. So I do try to be very realistic with my capacity and what I can actually get done in a day. And always, like I said, always prioritizing, trying to control my time and my daily task and my calendar, and not be less reactive to what the surrounding needs from me, and be more active and say, okay, I'm going to first get done, like my energy is going to first go to the critical things I have to do, because that moves the needle and that's what I'm being evaluated for, or those are the things that matter to management, and then get down to the other things. I do find that when I give my brain breaks, it's far more effective. So I don't try to just like kill myself, and shove too much in one day and just do task after task, because I'm not a machine and it's impossible. And then you lose your touch and your creativity, and your hunch and whatever it is, your patience. So I do try to just be realistic, and not to overkill.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, any marketer, but especially in social, there's so much output that needs to happen creatively day to day. Um, and the truth is getting promoted isn't just about the output, right? It's also about the internal dynamics and making sure, like you said, Sarah, like you're known internally, you're somebody who people like to work with internally, and that you're not invisible. And you could create a bunch of viral posts and not talk to anybody internally, and like you're not going to get promoted. Or
True.
you could
Yeah.
balance that with the work that you need to do internally, which, yeah, some of that is selfish, but also it is, people who don't understand social internally want to understand more of the value. They want to see what's happening. They want to know how it's affecting the business, and they want to know the feedback that you're getting from the audience there. So there's win-wins for kind of spending some of your time on that, even if the content calendar is getting like super backed up. Obviously, it's a balance and it's a really hard one. Tyler Jones has a good question kind of on the back of this, on the comparisons of being like a leader but also a doer, as you move up in your career. Tyler, do you wanna unmute and ask that question?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Just as social folks move up the org chart, how do you balance being a creator, producer, just producing your own content versus spending time in the CMO or leadership role, where a lot of the time is dedicated marshaling resources, getting budgets approved and provided to teams, inspiring direct reports to create, since your time is focused elsewhere, or even connecting other parts of the org outside of the marketing creator org to figure out your work.
Yeah, great question. Dakota, I'll start with you on that, because you mentioned before how you have high respect and commitment to like just doing it, figuring it out, getting the work done. But also as a VP, like there's a strategy level, there's a management level that you have to balance as well. How have you found that balance as you've moved up in your career from being an IC to a leader?
When I figure that out, you guys will be the first ones to know. I think you're kind of touching on a few things, Tyler. I think thought leadership in my approach to it is I start internal when it comes to creating content. So when I like talking about storytelling, as I mentioned, like if I'm doing something externally, if you see me posting on LinkedIn, I've probably already shared it with my like team of social managers, or I've shared it in an email recap. So I'm making sure to like, as I try and build from an external standpoint, I'm also like using what I'm already doing internally to fuel that. So I did content around the like Starbucks disaster with Walmart tapping in and Aldi. Like those were things I was already talking about and doing in my job. And I just brought a post external. So I think that's also a way that I've found efficiencies, is that in my work and being a thought leader within Edelman, that's translated external, and like those really are helpful to each other. And I think as I look to storytell of like, we just did this amazing campaign, I need to share it internally first before I go to LinkedIn. So I'm sending the recap email all the way up to my chief digital officer, and everyone is seeing that. And then that is going external. And you know what's funny is when you work in a place as big as Edelman, we have almost 6,000 people globally. Me being public on LinkedIn has helped me be more visible internally, which is really funny. Like it's gotten me opportunities to work on really amazing pitches and things because people see me online and I'm, visible, and they're hearing about what I'm doing, or the wins that we've had on clients. So it is like symbiotic, I think, and those do kind of pay each other off in a really nice way. And then I think as your external grows, again, it's like that visibility is helpful from a senior leadership perspective when it comes to like, oh, they know that Dakota is the Mayo girl, and they know that I've been doing a ton of campaigns that are, having really great results and winning awards. But from an internal and an external standpoint, I'm almost hitting them on both sides. I don't know what their opinion is on that, if they think it's better or worse, but I think that visibility is really helpful in getting us talent, getting us recognition, getting my team recognition. I got my team featured in BuzzFeed because I was visible. So I think the balance, it's less of a balancing act for me and more, how can I make that Venn diagram overlap more and more so that they're feeding each other? And yeah, what do you want to be known for? Like that, your personal brand, like it's become a LinkedIn thing, but I think it existed before and it'll exist after. Just who are you and what are you good at and what are you doing? And that's internal and external.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this idea of like visibility, like how are you making yourself visible internally? And that happens through internal communication and also can happen through obviously like your external presence as well. Jessica D, we'll bring Jessica on to ask her question. And feel free to introduce yourself to like your history and social, anything like that, whatever everyone's comfortable with.
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we got you.
Oh, awesome. Hey, y'all. Jessica __, she, her. I'm a social media manager at a climate nonprofit called Rewiring America. My question is this: what are the key metrics or points that we should be sharing with our company's leadership when we're briefing them out on social performance? A lot of these terms like engagement rate, impression are sort of in the weeds. What are the key things that they really need to know to see the impact that we're actually providing them?
Great question. Devonta, do you want to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, it depends on what your impact for the business is. Like we understand that like impressions and saves and comments are sometimes considered like vanity metrics, but they're just as important just because that's how many people have actually seen that content. But who's also engaging with that content is like super important. But if your company is like business goals are a little bit different, you want to see what you can share with them. Is that storytelling going to be the most impactful in the nonprofit space? Are you like talking to enough amount of like people and sharing their story across social for somebody who works in, for a product. How many, sales are you getting through like collaborations with creators? Are they using affiliate links? Are they getting enough impressions to get that product sold out? So it really depends on what the business needs. And so you have to understand what's the most important to prioritize for your leadership, but you also should be share those social, some of those social metrics as well, and help leadership and other people understand why those metrics are important. Of course, people are like, I want this to go viral, but everything's not going to go viral, especially if you're not making like amazing content, especially as we are in this like just different landscape with so many different like brands and companies hitting us with so many different messages. So understanding like what's most important to your company will help.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that of how you find the right metrics to report internally?
Yeah, so I think of two things. One is which metrics are most important for management, like for whoever it is that I'm presenting it to. And I think you can be quite smart with the data, whatever data you have. You can always find, and this goes back to storytelling. You can always, like, even if, let's say some of the numbers are not so good that month or for that campaign, you can dig and you can always find something that's interesting, something that's different, something that happened for the first time and maybe gave you ideas for what you should be investing in the next campaign. So I think it's very important to, like, before you just share the data, to just take like another look, just think a bit, is there an interesting angle that you can highlight? So that's like the first thing. The second thing I wanted to say is I think we also need to be realistic and understand that we can't, if we're going to send like a 20 slide deck, to management, they probably won't even, I mean, it'll be great if they even open it. They'll probably just look at the email that you sent. So also, like, put yourself in their shoes. I mean, it depends, of course, like if you're just sending it to them or if you're presenting it to them, but either way, put yourself in their shoes, assume that they're very, very busy and they have a lot of way more important things to do that day or at that minute, and to be very clear with what it is you want to show them and how. Like, how you're going to show them this data. So if, for example, I don't know, there was one or two assets that did go viral, so don't bury that in the slides, like just wham, put that right at the front, like put it in the email, embed it so they could just watch it. So yeah, I would say, what to present and how to present it.
Totally. That's a great one.
I want to
Yeah.
build on the viral ask, because I think we're like seeing a lot of that in the chat. And who hasn't been asked to go viral, like take a shot every time? It's 12:30. But I think something I've learned and what's been really interesting working in a PR agency is you're prepping for a big campaign, call it Super Bowl. There's an expectation or an ask from clients of like, this needs to hit 40 billion impressions. That's insane. But I think what is really nice going into that conversation is if the expectation is 40 billion impressions, this is what we need to achieve that. If I'm expected to go viral, which if we can define it for a brand, it's reaching above your current follower count, like call it that for sake of just simplicity. So if I need to reach more than my follower count, I'm going to need social budget for this amount. I'm going to need creator budget to amplify it for this amount. I'm going to need budget for small micro creators like clippers to distribute it for this amount. Like there just does need to be a bit of if that is the expectation in an organization, you're like, okay, that's great. Here's what I can do to achieve that. And here's the budget that's going to be necessary to do so. So I think it's something I've just learned that I think is a really nice way of framing. Like if the expectation is X, go viral. Okay, that in actual numbers is 1.5 million impressions, then this is what we need to accomplish that. I just think it's a nice way of resetting the expectation and being like, okay, if we're defining viral, first of all, so you actually know what you're saying when you're requesting that of me. Here's what's required to actually go viral. And if you're down for that, I'll get us 40 billion impressions. I'll get us to that number that you're expecting. But I think defining it and then defining what it takes are also helpful to level set expectations internally and get your freaking budget. Oh yeah, I could talk all day about clipping too. We should come back to
that. Devonta, do you want to add to that? I saw you commented about the budget piece. How
Yeah.
how do you navigate that internally? I think it's all related to career growth, is knowing how to navigate, and getting resources.
Yeah, I think it's important to like get resources for budgets, but sometimes the budgets just aren't there. And so you have to be a little bit nimble and crafty to see how you can be impactful, especially with your organic content. So, oftentimes, you want to add paid media, especially for brands. Brands are not getting the virality that creators or even small creators are getting, so you need that creator amplification oftentimes to help increase like virality for something that you're interested in getting the audience to talk about. Um, but yeah, can be very challenging when there's not enough investment within the social media, strategy or plan. So having your team understand the impact of what we can do with paid media, what we can do with creator amplification is so important. And showing the results from previous campaigns that you have will probably help drastically.
Totally. Okay, we're gonna bring another question on from the audience. Jamie Sear, do you want to come on and introduce yourself and ask your question?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Hi, I'm Jamie Sear. I run community at FabFitFun. We're a monthly lifestyle subscription box. So my question is kind of more from the personal side, but what's your best advice for someone who is in B2C and wants to pivot or position themselves for a B2B SaaS role? Or Devonta, I know you were talking about, you've worked in several industries. Like, what's your best advice for positioning yourself for a different industry?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, I'll be very frank. When I started in B2B, I actually hated it. I was doing fashion B2B marketing. I could not get people to engage with our content, and I was so frustrated. I had a team of content writers and social media managers, and all the team wanted us to do was make things go viral. But to your question, I think it's important to make sure you set yourself up as not only a thought leader, but you have experience across different types of campaigns, different type of industries. So, for us as social media managers or people that work in social media, it's not often where you probably will stay with the company and you go from associate to manager, senior manager to director, et cetera. That doesn't happen all the time. It did not happen for me. I just kind of like had to like swim my way around the like navigating differently. And so it's understanding and maybe being okay with jumping into different companies that will like help you grow. So I am all for like going back to like a small business to one, increase pay and increase your title. But sometime we have these dream companies. I don't have dream companies anymore. So I used to like want to work for the Googles and the Apples of the world, but I don't know what that looks like. It looks like for me now, like if they're a company that I aspire to work for anymore. So being able to understand like how you can get a breadth of experience, not just staying in your one area. And as social media people, like there's so many different directions you can go in now. You can be a social media analyst. You can be a social media operations manager. You can be a social media content person. You can be um, all these different in all these different spaces. So figure out how to get experience across all of those so you have a wealth of knowledge as you move up in your role and you can be able to provide the resources and the dedication to like these higher titles that you have.
I would say too,
Yeah.
if you're making a pivot, as someone that's worked across a lot of different verticals, when people are making changes, it makes me so excited because I'm like, yes, do the thing, like pursue the thing. And I think that energy and that passion is really like nice and appreciated and felt. But But I think with any job change, it's like, how do you align what you're doing now with your dream JD, with the job you're looking at? So if you're looking for moving from Big Mayo to working at LinkedIn, aligning your profile, your resume, everything you're doing now with what does that job look like? So instead of talking about CPG and talking about things in your space, you're doing thought leadership around B2B, and you're sharing your point of view. You're tweaking your resume so that the things that you're highlighting align with that. And I think ChatGPT is now a really powerful tool for this, of like catering your resume and your experience to storytell to line up to that job that you want. Dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. It's same with your LinkedIn and your resume. I'm a firm believer. So I would say, just as a build, like catering where you're at now to where you want to go and lining up with that. So it looks like a really obvious hire. I think too, I know it's a really hard and weird job market. And I'd say a lot of companies now are looking for the perfect person, which is really frustrating. So it's even more important that you align yourself really closely with that job versus saying, well, I'm CPG, but I can translate it. You really need to align right now with what people are looking for, even though it's probably fucked up and really annoying. You just need to get as close as possible to that job.
And I want to also jump back in and say that 100% agree with that. Also, take on projects or side projects outside of your main job, and so you can get that experience in addition to what you're already doing. Sometimes you may not and will not get that experience where you're at. So you may do like some consulting, or you may even become a creator in this space. So like something that I aspire to is do my travel content creation, and then also do B2B marketing creation. There are some amazing creators like Jade Powell and Brandon Smithrick, who I absolutely love, who used to work in content and social, and in some ways still do, but they've also become creators. So they have expanded not only their responsibility, but what they're able to talk about. So it's really important to kind of like get that well-rounded experience, and you probably won't get that in your current role, especially if it's very specific.
Yeah, really great points. Really great points. And I think specific to like working in B2B now myself, if you're trying to make the switch from B2B social to or B2C to B2B, there's a really common conversation happening, especially on LinkedIn, that the best B2B brands approach their social like a B2C company. So you have that advantage, and you can start talking about that on your own LinkedIn, getting your own thoughts together about that. But that is a now sought after idea in the B2B space of we need a B2C approach to our social. So that gives you a leg up. But to the point of this panel, like start positioning yourself in that way, talking about why the best B2B brands are like B2C, what you've learned in B2C that could take you to B2B. And there should be a lot of opportunity there. Sarah, have you navigated career transitions from different industries, different roles, and how have you been able to kind of make that shift?
So yeah, I've actually always had a strong B2B focus, even now at Wix, which is, typically a B2C brand. We focus our influencer marketing efforts on Wix's B2B solutions. I have seen, just as like a follow-up to the previous discussion, I have seen and I personally know many social media like B2B teams that gladly hire B2C social media managers, because they're trying to be more human, more fun, more whatever. So I actually see that as a big advantage. So I wouldn't let that, don't let that stop you, and apply, even if they're asking for B2B only experience. Like, we all know that the JD is far from reality. So I think it's actually a very good thing. I think like, to answer your question, transition that I did, not B2B to B2C, but from partnerships to influencer marketing, was something that just happened by chance, where I was Wix was launching a solution for web developers, and we were well aware at the time that the web dev community feels quite negatively towards Wix, because Wix, had invested so much money in creating a brand that says, well, anyone can build a website on your own. You don't need a web developer. And then here we are trying to take a U-turn on that investment and saying, well, actually, we have a solution for developers. And what led me from partnerships to influencer marketing was the understanding that we did have this brand challenge and there was this gap in the perception. And the idea of, okay, we need to work through communities, like from the bottom up. And that's when I had the opportunity to start working with influencers, even though we didn't call it influencer marketing. We didn't really give it a name back in the day. So yeah, anything can happen. Any transition.
Yeah, I love that. And as you're talking about that, of it kind of happening by chance, like I liked what you said earlier, Devonta, about like you used to have dream logos and now it's not about the logo, it's about where your job is taking you, where your career is taking you, and like saying yes to those things. I used to feel the same way of like, I used to be like, I'm not going to work in social, I'm content, I'm marketing, I'm digital. And then things naturally took me to social. And then when I finally embraced that is when I started like leveling up in my career. And I also was similarly like, I could only work for like logos that I'm a big fan of, that would be
Yeah.
cool to have on my resume. And once I like gave that up, I felt like I was freed up to actually find jobs and opportunities that were interesting and right for me. It's more about less caring about the perception and more about actually liking what you're doing.
Yeah, especially now. As Dakota said, the job market is shit right now. And so good luck to everyone that's out there searching for their next opportunity. Just be open to every possibility. Sometimes you go to a company that you've never heard of and you have a wonderful, great like experience that allows you to grow. I didn't ever plan to be in social. And so I was actually in traditional marketing at Ralph Lauren for my first job. And traditional marketing was kind of going away and social media was becoming a thing. So I went back to school, got a digital marketing certification, and then started working at this health and wellness company in New York. And I was able to do everything under the sun. They said yes to everything. Granted, I was only making $50K a year, but honestly, it was the most important $50K that I ever received because it allowed me to understand how and where I wanted to take my social career. And so that was super helpful to like just take a bet on yourself or take a bet on the company and figure out it's just like you land where you land and sometimes it's in a great space.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, Eric Ford, friend of the pod. Hey, Eric.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, great. My name is Eric. I call myself your favorite culture or community marketer. I used to work at L'Oreal. I led like influencer brand comms and PR and stuff. But I'm very familiar with social, did it before my previous roles. My question is really about scaling your career. For me, I have found it hard, especially working in social, depending on what brand you work at, to move up because you have the leadership skills, you know what you're doing, you gain the knowledge, you have the years, but managerial experience is something that's really big that comes up a lot. And sometimes I feel like a lot of us miss those points because a lot of our teams are very small. And so we don't always get the chance to have headcount that allows us to lead a team or even have a direct report to even show those managerial skills. I've had like interns before, people that stay for like 6 months, contractors, but not a true full-time person. So I would love to understand more about like how to navigate that, especially as someone that's probably moving to a new role in social to another place or something, and you're looking for director roles where you fit the everything else except for having that direct report. And sometimes you might get missed over because you don't technically have quote unquote the managerial experience like other departments might be able to do.
I can jump
Yeah.
in.
Go ahead, Dakota.
Uh, no, you go first. I'm actually really interested in your response, so you go.
Hey Eric, so I have been in this position quite a few times, and my recommendation, I have two recommendations. The first one is that any experience that you have managing, whether that's an intern or somebody else, is experience. So make sure that you are showing that on your resume or your LinkedIn profile as such. You know, that you also, when you're in rooms with people that are managing, or you have been on projects where management and things are happening, you're still getting that experience, and you're able to like say like, I've done X, Y, and Z with these interns. My second thought that I think I may have lost is that sometimes you need to move on from a company
Yeah.
to get what you want. And as you can see, if you look at my LinkedIn, I did quite a few hops within my career within about 2 years to get to the salary and to get to the responsibilities and an interesting job that I wanted. I just celebrated 4 years at LinkedIn on Saturday. So this has probably been my longest job that I've stayed at, which is like super crazy to say, but you know, I talked about like making 50K in my second job career. Then I moved up to 78. Then I moved up to 98, and then um, took a huge jump after that. I was like, okay, this feels good, But yeah, sometimes you just have to move on if you don't see the opportunities within your company. It just
Mhm.
doesn't happen as much nowadays, and that's such a challenge. So finding finding a company that will value you and help you grow is most important. But when it's time, sometimes you just have to move on.
Yep. That was great advice, Devonta. My top career advice to young people is quit your job. Um, Maybe don't do it without a job lined up, especially not in this economy. But I completely agree that you just need to find the right next thing for you. I'd also say on the, having interns and jobs looking, roles looking for people that have that people management experience, you do have it. And I'd say even in me having conversations, like I have 2 direct reports now. I used to have 6. But when I talk to people, that are like, are you managing people? I'm like, well, right now I have 2 people, but I've, managed teams up to 6. And that's sort of my experience. I'm like lumping that together of I've had that kind of, range and experiences when it comes to managing people, and all together, throughout, you could even have like the total of the amount of interns you've managed. I've managed 20 interns throughout my career. Like that's a really impressive stat when you kind of zoom out and look at your full story as opposed to just this moment right now. So I'd look at that as well when it comes to having those conversations.
Yeah, 100%. Sarah, curious your experience on how to get managerial
Yeah,
skill.
I agree with everything that was said, and I'll add that I think it's once let's say you've joined a new place or you've been there now for a few months, it doesn't take too long to understand the players, and to understand, well, what are my chances of getting a promotion? Like, what are my chances of going up the ladder in this place where I am now? And I think it's important to be very realistic and to be aware of these things, and then to make a decision. Like, do you want to hang around until that opportunity happens, or until you're able to make that opportunity happen, or like Dakota said, maybe it's better to quit and to get that elsewhere. So I think it's important to be realistic in these
Totally.
situations.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think, I mean, at least in the tech world, the managerial piece of the job, I think people are realizing you can be a leader without needing to manage people, and are valuing ICs at higher and higher levels. So being a leader isn't just about managing people, and I think you could make that argument as well of, to be a high level marketer, you still need to get your hands dirty, and being a leader isn't necessarily just about performance reviews and managing people, and that is, I feel like, becoming more accepted in this kind of new job market. Okay, I think that is kind of all the time we have. Christina's slacking me. She's like, "Hey, I need to get on here. I need to talk. I need
We're running out
to
of time.
what's up." Running out of time. I want to thank Devonta, Dakota, and Sarah for an amazing conversation and all the advice. And then I'm going to pass it over to Christina to do some housekeeping and wrap this up.
Not my jaw dropped like this the whole time. Literally during this whole conversation. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I can't wait to rewatch. So we will be posting this whole thing on Slack tomorrow in our Slack community. So if you're not already on there, I'll be sure to post the link now. But also want to do our giveaway because that's so fun, right? We love doing a giveaway. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I feel like such a Zoom noob every time I do this. Okay, here we go. The winner of the prize is, let's do a little spin. Drum roll, everybody. The winner is Tyler. Great question, Tyler. That was so good. Thank you. Thank you for asking your questions, everyone. It truly was so good to hear from you. This conversation was amazing. Also, we will be hosting a lunch and learn about Slate. If you've ever wanted to ask, what is Slate? We want to know more about it. We're hosting a lunch and learn next week, November 19th. It's going to be with Eric, me, and Christina Lee. It's going to be such a fun one. So bring your own lunch. We're going to have a fun conversation. And also next month's Social Club is going to be all about recapping the year for 2025, all the things that have happened in social and all the things we can look forward to. Some predictions are going to be made. So going to drop all the things right now in the chat. Multitasking is amazing. I love doing it. There you go. Thank you everyone for joining. And Tyler, please DM me. I'll get you your prize. It was so good to have you all. And we'll see you next month, Wednesday, 12 p.m.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.